concept artists worried about their jobs, also I think they should just use it instead. It's gonna be cool if you're open to embrace it and to adapt.
Man, I don't think there's anything more human than that. Adapt or die, and that's what we do. Human
Yeah,
beings, we
exactly.
adapt.
I don't like to be scared about this stuff. I just don't. Yeah, it's a waste of time.
What's up, 3D artists? I just got off the call with Marco Menco. If you don't know him, you still probably know a lot of his work. We talk about the tools of the industry, how his career got started, some of the game-changing projects and studios that helped him get to where he is today, and artificial intelligence like MidJourney and DALL-E and how that's going to affect artists in the future. If you don't know me, I'm Connor Woodard. I'm the 3D art guy. Suggestions, ideas, opinions, comments, just drop them below because I want to read them. This video is sponsored by you, the viewer, no one else. So if you could do me a favor and click those two buttons, you know, the ones like the big red one, looks like a box, and the one that looks like a thumb. It would mean a lot to me because it would support me on my mission to help 3D artists make a living doing what they love. All right, let's get started. Thank you so much, Marco, for doing this. Your work is really, really beautiful. And you consistently, the jobs that you've held in the industry are always very sought after. And what I find the most interesting and the reason what started this kind of the prompt for this call was that you have always been on the cutting edge of technology. Is that you were beta testing for Zbrush like way, way, way early. And so before we start talking about AI and MidJourney and all that stuff, I kind of want to ask like how you've been able to do that. What is it about like new tech that draws you to it? And how are you always in the position where you're bleeding edge?
Right. I think is a mix of things. There is definitely curiosity and like just um, hearing what's happening out there, like from other people, and then me wanting to try just to play and see how that can whatever is happening, how that can improve or help me to achieve better, faster results, for whatever I'm making. Like sometimes it's just about personal work and just having fun with the tools, and sometimes is applied at work. So I think back and then there is definitely the immigrant mentality that is like feeling a little bit always like you're one step behind and that you have to catch up constantly, right? So that always pushed me a little bit to even in times where I was like, oh no, I'm just gonna take it easy for a bit now. Even in those times, I always felt like I can maybe for a week or two, but yeah, I should always stay informed and at least try something rather than just say no, I'm just not gonna use it, or that's not for me, or whatever. So back with Zbrush, at that time I was still in school when I put my hands on it, and it was like 2003, I think, or four, something around that time. And I was just starting to learn a bit of graphics design, a bit of 3D here and there with XSI, and then later Maya. And ZBrush was just like what was translating my passion for sculpting and for character making, that I was just playing around with clay and with comic drawing. ZBrush became that sort of tool that would help me to put it into 3D, and I guess that sort of like sparked the interest of like, what's the next tool? What's gonna help me to make it better and faster? Like I've been always more about the idea than the fact that you should be totally like and just like connected to your like hand skills, like many artists kind of get stuck in the idea that their art, um, their craft is them,
Mm.
But I think, you know, artists are people that communicate ideas. So being, you know, out and finding the tools that allow you to do that is what definitely can keep you, you know, a little bit forward, like a little bit ahead of others.
Okay. Wow. So I want to double click on a few things that you said there. When did you move to Canada, and was it straight to Vancouver?
It was straight to Vancouver, and it was 2006. I came the first time, and I did like a summer thing where I just checked it out. And then later in 2007, I came here like right after finishing my academy, and yeah, I just came with a portfolio as a tourist and tried apply everywhere until I got a job.
Right on, man. Yeah. And what academy did you go to? And
I went to fine arts, and so it was a mix of multimedia and traditional arts. So I got to play with a bit of everything there, a bit of painting, a bit of sculpting, a bit of
fantastic.
yeah, Photoshop, Illustrator, you know, anything that was. There was a lot of video also that was pretty much what I was doing most of the time, like short movies and stuff that was kind of like artsy, a bit like video installation type of stuff.
Fun.
Yeah,
Very
very
cool.
fun, very fun. I loved those 4 years. It was 4 years, yeah. So it was awesome, yeah,
And that was
definitely,
pre 2006.
yeah.
And where was that? Where were you
That
doing
was
that?
in Italy, where I'm from.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow. So that's over 20 years of creativity now.
Probably longer because in high school also, well, high school was science mostly, but I
Mhm.
was one of those bit rebel kids, so lots of drawings and spending time bit apart from the main group,
Mhm.
doing my thing. And yeah, high school was not the best time. I think I was in the wrong place.
Oh, for so many of us, right? Creative
Yeah,
people. Yeah, creative people in high school is often very, very difficult.
yeah, it's too usually high school. They kind of expect you to know what you want to do, right?
Mm,
But you're so influenceable at that time that any person that is older than you that sort of like sees a bit of insecurity can inject doubt and what you want to do, and then you end up doing what you don't like, and then you change your mind. You're like, okay, that definitely didn't work, so let's try the original idea.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's no, that's that. I think that's super important. Is that feeling, trying stuff at it not working, not feeling right, and then following the intuition of like what was I up to before I got put on the wrong path, or before I got put on the path that led me to where I don't want to be. Not
yeah,
necessarily wrong path, but you know, when you're not doing what you want to be doing, yeah, what were you doing before you took the path that led you there? I think
yeah.
is
It's
yeah,
definitely never, whatever you're doing is never the wrong path. There's
totally.
always like one direction you took, a detour or whatever. You're still going where you're going, right? Unless you're like stopping and giving up, then you're always going towards where you want to go, really.
Absolutely. Something we talk about a lot in here.
Mm,
Perseverance, right? Just
yeah,
not stopping, not giving up, not quitting,
yeah,
not taking no for an answer, just keep pushing right through.
for sure.
And that portfolio when you came over 2006, got yourself a portfolio. It's got a mix of media, sculpture, some Zbrush stuff, some digital stuff. How was it? Was it okay, or did it
It
suck?
was so at that time I wanted to come to Vancouver because my ex-girlfriend from those days, I met her in uni. She was from Vancouver Island. And she
Mm-hmm.
talked to me about Vancouver and, you know, what was happening. And really at that time there was not much happening. Like I think 3 or 4 years that I was in, already NPC opened here for the first time, and then all the other companies started to appear. But otherwise, it was just mostly local companies. Like Image Engine was a local company, independent, and all that. But yeah, from what she told me at that, when I met her in uni, then I was like, what am I gonna do here in Italy, right? Like, and most of the people that I knew from the academy were either changing completely career because they would not find what they wanted to do, or they would become teachers, which is great, but it wasn't what I wanted to do back then. Or they would struggle for many years to find something that would, allow them to have some income, right?
Yep.
And so for me, coming from where I was coming, I really cared about having solid income and something that would allow me to grow. So yeah, I was not afraid. I was coming from nothing, right? So I just worked some freelance and put some money aside for the ticket, and being independent for like 2 or 3 months here in Canada. And I knew that if I was not gonna make it in that time, I had to come back. So whatever happened that time, I just pushed, and then it happened. And I was lucky too. Like I have to say, like it's not um like I always think that if you are working, then things are happening. If you're not doing anything, then nothing happens. And it's not just you. It's also like the surrounding where you are, like the set and setting,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, there is a lot that happened that allow me to make it in the industry. But yeah, definitely working hard was one of the things. And the portfolio that I had was basically me looking at what was coming out of Vancouver Film School and thinking, I'm an immigrant. They already have people there, so I have to do at least as good, if not better, right? And so I did. I created like a little. I was inspired by this medieval Italian poet at that time. Dante, and I still use it. Like you saw me using
Yeah.
MidJourney with that sort of concept behind. And at that time, I just decided to take the first poem from Inferno and sort of create concept art from those words. And I just adapted it to more modern touch. I used 3D mixed with 2D, and so I had models that I could show in like different views, and then I had the complete pictures that were sort of like the concepts. And I showed you a bunch of places. Some places would take a long time to get back to me. Other places a bit faster. But the first place that was, like went for the interview, and like 2 days later they offered me the job, was Image Engine, and I was like, I'm running out of money. I don't care. Yes, I sign.
Absolutely. Yeah, the first one is like whatever, whoever gives me the contract first is who gets me.
Yeah, and it turned out great because of Image Engine was also a company that was growing at that time, and I just jumped on that boat right when it was about to sail, and District 9 came in, and I had my chance there, and I took it, and from that point on, it was easier. Let's put it that way, in terms of like continuing to grow in the career and finding more opportunities.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So District 9 on the resume and on the demo reel, leading into The Thing as well, right? A few years later,
Yeah.
the remake of The Thing.
Yeah, The Thing was right after D9, and that was great too. Like it allowed me to try a little bit of leadership role in the studio, doing both concept art and modeling. So I was super involved in that project, and the director would come and sit next to me, and we would talk about the creatures and how he wanted it to move. And I would sometimes open the rigs and play with the movement, and be a bit of a, I don't know, I just love the project, so I was very vocal about it. So I didn't really have a specific role that would, uh, allow me to make decisions in that sense. But I was just lead modeler at that time, right? So yeah, it just happened in that way, and then right after I got to go to Weta.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that first step, and I think, what you just said is super important, is that even though you weren't in a position to make those calls, just the passion about the project allowed you to be vocal and actually make those influence and have that influence, because the one with the most passion leads.
Yeah, and I think I never really had the how do you say, the ambition to become VFX supervisor. I was always more about, I like to be an artist. I still do, and whenever I went to a closer role, to like a supervisor, I always felt that I was somehow betraying the reason why I was here. And so I always, I mean, maybe I'm not excluding that for the future I might change my mind, but like up until now, I think DD, I was facial lead at DD. DD was the closest to being a show supervisor, because when we would have like a facial centric show, then the facial lead would be basically some sort of art director slash CG soup. But yeah, we would not have the title as supervisor, because there was this department supervisor. But yeah, that was the closest to that sort of manager role that I experienced, and I didn't really like it.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
It was sweat and tears.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and removed from the art, not the sweat and tears you want to sweat.
Yeah, it's like
cry.
You're not really removed from the art. You're still doing the art, but you have to do all the managing stuff as well, and it was really killing the joy of doing what I like.
Totally. And again, trying those things, not being where you want to be, and changing your path again.
Yeah, I got to a point where I was like, did I move from my country to do this, or was it something else, right? Like, yeah, then I made my decision.
Yeah, again, immigrant mentality. Yeah, it's like a through line through your whole career.
It's like such a strong landmark in my life that I can always go back and look at it and be like, okay, why did I do that, right?
Absolutely. That's so powerful. I love that. I mean, I'm an immigrant from the States. It's not nearly the distance, right? But I felt very similarly, someone to give me a work permit, I had to be so much more worth it than the next Canadian in line. So
and you did do a lot, in fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. To get, I'm now a citizen, so yeah, it was a lot of legwork to get that job done, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, congrats.
Thank you so much. And you just well, I don't know if we should say anything or whatever, but
for the citizenship.
Yeah,
I just saw it like half an hour ago that my test is approved. And
fantastic, brother. Congratulations. That's awesome. Good for you.
Ceremony, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And it's gonna be on Zoom.
One more time.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that's gonna affect how you that immigrant mentality, or do you think that's gonna be that's deep in your DNA?
I honestly think well, I've been in Canada for a long time, with a break of 3 years in New Zealand, right? So up until now, I never really wanted to become Canadian, but now I don't know if it's because I have a child, or I think not directly, but like experiencing birth here in Canada, and like seeing how the health system and just like all the little things that we needed sort of worked and supported this birth, made me feel like I want to support this too. I want to be part of it, and yeah, it made me. I definitely chose it this time to become Canadian, and honestly, studying for the test gave me a lot of pride for the choice I made. And so, yeah, when I'll be Canadian, I'll be a proud Canadian.
Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, no, that's really exciting. And since I am a new Canadian, I can say we will welcome you.
Yeah, nice.
So that'll be very, very cool. I want to pivot a little bit to your work here.
If you look at DeviantArt, you probably find posts from 2005 or 4. I haven't touched DeviantArt in a long time, but yeah, that first image that popped up, yeah, this is from my student reel.
Oh, wow, incredible.
Those ones on the side also are from my student reel, like except the giants, I believe.
You're a drummer?
I
Drummer
was
2000?
I was, yeah, I was in a death metal band, believe it or not,
Fantastic,
for 4
fantastic.
years.
So you have been focused like pretty exclusively on character sculpting. Like there's some other stuff, sure, but like it's been your main focus for now more than 2 decades. Is that fair?
Yeah.
What gives you the ability to focus on just on a single discipline like that? Because especially, you know, as a death metal band drummer and as a creative person in general, painting, sculpting, you know, I'm a musician as well, and I'm a
Nice.
teacher, and I do virtual spaces, and I do modeling, texturing, lighting, rendering. Like when I see somebody that is dedicated to a single discipline like this, and of course you're doing a lot of different things, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about with this piece, this one right here, Ambition, which I just love so much, is that this could very easily be a lighting demo reel piece. Like the lighting in here is tremendous. It's gorgeous. It's something that I continue to use as reference for my students of,
Thank
you
you.
know, this is how you can have cinematic lighting. This is how you can invoke mood and power and emotion on a studio background, you know, on something that's so simple. And yet the lighting feels like it came as an afterthought to what is your real true calling, which is character sculpting. So my question to you is just how were you able to dedicate to this one discipline when there's so many other interesting things that you're obviously passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I am. I do many things for sure, like even outside the art stuff, like between sports and nature and stuff. But in terms of art and like professional work, for me, so there is a say, right? Like people that get into the industry, they sort of sell their craft to the clients, big clients like Disney, like whatever, right? Like this, and they tell you, well, you think you're an artist, but you're just making things for someone else, right? And in my head, I always hated that idea, and so I always liked that I could somehow put something of mine in even, you know, when I have to do likeness, you know what I mean? So I love the idea. For me, like it's always been the main concept that kind of was driving my exploration, the struggle of the flesh, of like how the human machine struggles to handle and hold itself up against gravity. and the forces of nature, right? So time and gravity definitely are the strongest influencers in the way we look and in the way we perform and in the way we somehow evolve and change, right? So initially it was all about anatomy for me. Like I was super passionate about studying anatomy and understanding levers and pulleys, and apply that concept to the human skeleton and muscles, right? And and then as soon as I started to get more involved with animation and like the effects and all that stuff, I started to see how my interest sort of like started to focus more and more to where people would pay more attention, which is the face. So how do we connect to someone, or like to a character, is through looking in the eyes and the face, and understanding that mirror effect of like emoting and reacting to each other's, right? And so the face became more and more my focus. And yeah, and I mean, you might think it's very focused sort of work, that you're like just doing the same thing over and over, and like in the everyday practice at work, you sort of are doing the same thing over and over. But every time, if you still apply that passion, that concept, that idea that you have in your head, then you're always researching, and you're always trying to make it better and make it more yours, and yeah, and connect more with what you're doing. And this is why I still like to do art rather than managing people.
Wow. And looking at your work while you're talking, and I hadn't seen this piece before. This is now 10 years old.
Yes, yeah.
And it's just incredible, the storytelling, and yeah, like you said, the empathetic mirroring that an audience has with someone like this. We can almost, yeah, we can feel them, we can relate to them, and yet time, gravity, and nature has affected this human a lot.
Yeah.
Like a tremendous amount. Yeah.
But yeah, like in a piece like this, I remember when I worked on it, and then the reason why I would spend more time in the sculpting phase rather than embellishing it with proper lighting and rendering and all that, is because I really get lost a little bit, like in this, adding weight to the fleshiness, adding depth to folds and overhanging shapes over different planes, like that sort of idea of getting lost while you're sculpting is really cool for me. And yeah, in times where I was able to lock myself in a room and just explore, I could really spend hours doing this. Now it's a little different with a kid.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you might end up being more supervisorial anyways.
Definitely at home.
Yeah, managing the family. You've worked on so many different projects. I think now would be a great time to talk about the tools over the decades. Going from clay to Zbrush, to digital tools that are getting more and more powerful. And part of the reason why you inspired me to have this call was because of work like this, which I saw, and I immediately identified this as Marco Menco work. Like this is
that's interesting.
Yeah, without question. And then I saw that it was a MidJourney output, and that you were leaning out of the credit. You're like, yeah, I directed it, or like I kind of didn't do this. Like I have it. It's made because of me, but I kind of didn't do it. And so I kind of, I want to. There are a lot of people that are genuinely concerned that we're going to lose our leverage here as artists. That our ability to be creative or to be artistic and our artistic skills are just not going to be as important anymore. And what do you think about that? Do you think that that's true?
I think that we have to make an important distinction between what's done professionally and what's done artistically, right? So artistically, we still, if we have money, we still like to buy marble sculptures or paintings, like original paintings, right? You wouldn't buy a print if you had the money to buy an original, right? So I think in terms of art, art is still human, and we still want to see what is the output of a human rather than a machine. So there is definitely, I think, the component of tech passionate people that would buy AI printed work, or even like something like this if they like it. Simply if they like it, they would. But I think art curators and people that are like properly art invested people, then they probably would lean more towards the human artist. But professionally, tools evolve all the time, and also artistically. But like talking about professionally, tools evolve all the time, and they just help us to output ideas and make it faster and make it better, or simply start a new trend also, right? Like there are trends that constantly happen, and they're born, they evolve, and then they die, or they give birth to new trends, right? And so I see this in a way. This is already somehow it has passed its peak, I think.
MidJourney or AI generative art?
MidJourney especially, but because DALL-E is already going more towards photographic outputs and like more how do you say, defined and detailed imagery, right? So if you want to use this as a tool, then you would use something that helps you to get closer to a finished look, right?
Right.
And that would be it would be about changing tool in this case. So MidJourney, I think it was somehow like the cool thing about MidJourney is that you don't need to have it local on your machine, and you can use the power of the net and just output images in a matter of seconds, really. And then you can keep on pressing and creating more and more variations, and you can play endlessly with words to find you could make a trend of your own just by using the same two words, right, over and over, and changing the others afterwards, and then you start creating a trend there, I think, which is what I did with this ones. Like they were sort of like the two words that I used for this was spiral and body, twisted bodies, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I would add fleshiness, I would add torment or suffering, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And these ones were like, I was blown away from the results, and I especially love how MidJourney combines colors in a very painterly way.
Totally.
And how you can see the greens in there in the flesh, and the skin is not just this pale membrane. It feels like it has depth, and you can see a bit of also like subsurface scattering with the reds.
Totally.
So that was really cool, and if I felt connected to it, and that's why I kept it and I posted it, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one also was somehow connected to the same series, just different uh, different prompt, or similar but like different, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, it's still in the same series.
These ones were more like I wanted to create psychedelic art with this,
Beautiful.
and it kind of, yeah, delivered pretty good, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's a psychedelic hellscape.
Yes.
But yeah, sometimes that's where you go. So
Yeah, definitely. And so yeah, I think this is like I remember uh, exactly while I was working on D9, I was the one that me and like there was Yelmer at that time, there was Juliana at that time. Um, so me and these guys were the ones advocating for uh, Zbrush, to
mhm,
use Zbrush in production, right? But everyone was against because they were already attached to their workflow with Maya, and they didn't want to open up, and it was a struggle to sometimes sort of take one task and do it twice, just to show that one would be done a lot faster if you were using the newer tools, right? And then later for texturing, Substance Painter, it's so much faster than painting and projecting in Mari, right?
totally.
So we don't say no to those because there is still an artist there that's somehow pushing and pulling points and sliders. But when you just have to type words, then it becomes even more controversial and scary. There is also the problem of like where MidJourney is sourcing all these images, right? Like it's basically a patchwork of what's already been created out there. Like every stroke is taken from another piece of art.
Right.
And so that's another point there that makes you question, can I call it mine? Can I um, make it, can I even say that this is an original piece of art, right? It's a bit of a
Can I
collage.
push back on that a little bit?
Sorry.
Can I push back on that a little bit?
Sure.
Before MidJourney, if you wanted to make a piece like this, would you not type into Google Images and
Absolutely.
some keywords and
Yep.
then look at that art and take it and put it onto yours,
Yep. And honestly, I mean, I don't know how fair it is to just throw this out there, but I think in defense to how MidJourney works, I have seen in production concept artists literally grabbing another piece of concept art and warping it and then painting over and doing some photo bashing on top, and then putting it in their portfolio, no problem.
Right. Right.
And you're like, but dude, you didn't paint that. Or
Right.
you're using my 3D model to paint over, right? Stuff like that happens a lot in production. And I mean, I would say, if you want to be an artist, as just artist, outside productions and stuff like that, I think you can do whatever you want.
Right.
Nobody's gonna judge. There has been, countless situations, or better, like everybody's gonna judge, and
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you can be a successful one if the majority likes your work. Like that's just people gonna deciding if you're worth it or not. But in production, it's a bit of like a war scenario where everything is legal. Like you can do whatever is necessary to get there. And at the end of the day, uh, production work is not your work, and so it's always communal, it's always teamwork. So yeah, to get too attached to the idea of like ownership is very dangerous in production especially. And like I said, outside production you can do anything. Like, yeah, people made art with poop, so
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's, as we head into this new era, I'm having just a lot of conversations on LinkedIn about these tools, and about what is art. And I feel like I experimented with MidJourney. I blasted through my free trial and like immediately, like
yeah,
I
it's
just,
so addicting, right?
yeah, it's like it's like a video game. I could just play it all day, and I realized, okay, well, I won't pay for this yet, because if I pay for it, I'm just going to sit down here and just make images all day, but I'm not going to make anything out of them. So of the images I generated, I was like, okay, I'll put these together and I'll actually do some environmental modeling. I'll actually make this I'll use this concept art as a thing,
Yeah, that's cool.
and dude, this is not ready yet, like it is not formalized design. It is not, it looks cool, but most of it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
right.
very
So it's,
true.
yeah, so it's really not, and I'm not saying it wouldn't get to the point where you could have a Dolly or a MidJourney or something like that would actually generate a design with 6 angles, that or a 3D model that's totally viable and certainly coming. But as it stands, there's so much interpretation and formalization and structure
Yeah,
and thoughtfulness that's necessary in
yeah.
order to make these pieces production worthy and not just fine art.
And that's one of the most interesting aspects of how this AI works. Like, it somehow understands, I mean, somehow it's been programmed to understand what we like the most and what we like to see when we look at a picture, right? And I mean, obviously there are plenty of sources online, and so maybe it's, I don't really know, but maybe it's based on the most viewed images, or stuff like that.
I think so. I think there's something like that. It's like a Google algorithm that brings up the most relevant
Right.
images and mushes them together, which is, again, it's a step we were already doing. We were already typing stuff into Google Images and then compiling it together and mixing and mashing in our own mind. And now this is it's just borrowing MidJourney's mind to do that work for you. And then you're more of a curator and more of a director. But then to get it into production is still a tremendous amount of legwork. For me, I feel like this MidJourney, it didn't replace my work or didn't make my work irrelevant. It multiplied what I have to do now, because now I have 7 environments I want to make instead of just one. Like, I've got 7 good ideas, and ideas are great. They're what the thing is built out of, but execution is 99%.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think this is a huge source of inspiration, and the best part of it is that it comes from your prompt. So it definitely will inspire you. Like, the more you keep, refining that image through variations and appraising, right? And so
Totally.
to me, is all positive. Is all positive, and to call yourself a concept artist because you use MidJourney is wrong. But obviously people will say that, so it's not even an argument, right? So concept artists worried about their jobs also, I think they should just use it instead,
right?
because they already are concept artists. And if they have this extra tool in their hands, they're already people with design oriented minds. There are people that understand what's beautiful and what's not, what works, what doesn't, even in terms of function sometimes, right?
Totally.
And so using this can bring so many ideas, even if it's just for a silhouette. You know what I mean?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that seems like a great keyword prompt, is to use MidJourney for silhouette generation. That would be beauty. It just
Yeah,
gives you the
yeah.
framework, right? And then
Yeah,
you
I
can build
tried
on
a
top.
few actually that were just black and white, right? Like sort of like pencil drawing. And it's
Mhm.
cool what comes out. It's really cool, and it definitely prompts tons of ideas. It's a bit like
I'm gonna
the
buy it. I'm gonna sign. I can't resist. I'm gonna subscribe.
yeah, I did a couple months. Yeah, but like
Awesome.
I did the $10 thing
Mhm.
because I was like, oh no, I gotta pay now. But somebody was like, dude, it's the price of a cheeseburger. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's way less than a cheeseburger. It's like,
Mm,
okay, yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
yeah, 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 yeah. No, it's definitely cool, and I think I'm still gonna use it, like either to create something like I did in those images, or for inspiration for whatever I'm gonna make in 3D.
That's fantastic. Yeah, would love to see that progress. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to kick it to the audience here and see if there's any questions that you guys have.
Do you think that AI will reduce the amount of work for traditional artists to make room for the jobs that for people who know how to input the AI into the provide input to AI to generate art? So like would studios turn into places where a lot of the employees would work like programmers instead of artists?
Uh, that's extreme, but definitely there's gonna be a change. Yeah, I mean, even I think it was Elon Musk saying that AI will replace people's jobs, but it will create new ones, right? Like it's always gonna be, sort of like patching for a need, and then from that you get new needs, right? Like you're gonna set your standards from a new ground level, and then new needs will arise. And I think there's always going to be room for people to apply their skills, whatever they're going to be, right? Maybe just pushing verts will lose its meaning, but yay, right? Like that's pretty boring.
Totally.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be cool if you're open to embrace it and to adapt. If you resist, it's always gonna be a struggle, right? It's always gonna be like let's say I'm organizing a party and you say, oh, I don't wanna, I don't feel like it, then you're not in the party. That's just like that, right? So that's kind of how I see it.
I like that a lot, man. I don't think there's anything more human than that. Like we adapt or die, and that's what we do. Human
Yeah,
beings, we
exactly.
adapt, right?
Yeah, I don't like to be scared about this stuff. I just don't. Yeah, it's a waste of time.
Totally.
Cool.
Do you have any advice for the people that are just they're still trying to get over that threshold of that first job?
Yeah, I mean, nowadays is definitely a little bit tougher in terms of like getting in the industry, to fill a role, right? Like, every company is always looking for um, a modeler or a texture painter, right? But then even if you get the job, now it's harder to keep the job as a junior and then make it through the next steps, right? So first, to get the job, I think it's important that you are on, your work quality is at least at the standards that you see now from schools around the world. And you have to compete in that sense, that you have to be at the same level, if not better. That remains. But then once you're in the industry, I think you're not really in the industry up until you have 2 or 3 titles nowadays, and you have to really find your way to stand out from the crowd, because there is a lot of people now that get into the industry, and companies are sometimes exploiting them, right? So you have to find a way to be more relevant, to have something that makes you the person that they want to keep you. You have to find the way to be the person that the company wants to keep, and that the team that you worked with wants to have around. And I think creating connection with people around you is very important. Might be different now because of, the Zoom thing and distance and stuff like that. But there are many ways to, again, adapt and survive, right? So I think definitely quality of work is number one. Personality. So never be cocky, because there are so many people with talent, and you just one of many, right? There is no way around that. And then find a way to connect with people around you, and make valuable relationships, not just that's my workmate. I just go for coffees with him, right? I hear many times people that say, I don't go out with workmates because, yeah, they're just workmates. And I'm like, but what do you do for 8 hours a day with these workmates? That's the people you see for most of the day, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important, and that's what's gonna help you later on for sure, because people will spread around the industry, and you might need a job, they might need a job. You help each other's, and you stay afloat.
Absolutely. Wow, man, that seems it is a bit harder than when I was getting into the industry as well. So yeah, establishing that network is really, really, really critical.
Yeah, but keep it genuine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because people can feel it when it's just pure network, right?
Absolutely, no doubt. Yeah. All right. Well, I want to be super respectful of your time. Thank you so much
Appreciate
for
that.
giving your expertise and sharing your story and all of your talents and your skills with us. It was a wonderful call. So thank you again. And we'll catch you next time.
No, thank you for having me, inviting me, and listening, because yeah, it means a lot.